Welcome back, folks. I'm here at the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you very much to our good friends here, shooting with my brother Pete, the Rebel's Edge. So we're going to be talking about a lot of sports, a lot of stocks, and maybe a little bit about what's going on right now, Pete, with investments in these stocks by the administration. Because so far, they've only made about, I guess, $9 billion on that Intel investment. We'll have the 411 for you on how things are going with the next investment here on the Rebel's Edge.
The greatest kick in the history of the NFL is Adam Vinatieri, a 46 or 48-yard field goal in the Snow Bowl, 6 inches of snow. It wasn't on the turf, in a perfect environment. It was when it was really fucking hard. The greatest comeback game of my life.
I didn't know Brady swore.
Atlanta, 28-3 in the Super Bowl. It could have been the worst game of my career.
This was to all of
literally
these
the worst
draft
game. It could have been the most embarrassing loss of my career.
There's Caleb right there.
Instead,
Exactly.
based on our
Look who's
attitude and our
listening.
competitiveness, it turned into be the best game of our career, of my career, and our team's career. The history of the Patriots franchise, with 18 minutes left in the game, we're down by 25 points. So, all that shit's gonna change, and you guys, all that adversity that you're gonna face, that's gonna build who you guys are. The greatest kick in the history of
That's a fact.
Yeah.
We thought you guys would get a kick out of listening to the GOAT talk about that. Ben Johnson also played that for the players. He's the head coach of the Bears. He played that for the players in training camp. Not that clip, but he said, watch this. And he just showed all the highlights of Brady making that comeback. He said, we're never out of it till you look up and you see 00 on the clock.
Yep. It's all true. That's what makes Tom Brady the GOAT, though, right? Just like Michael Jordan is the GOAT. I mean, I don't even know that there's a competition for either of those guys. Is there, John? I mean, when you really go back and look and there's so many different ways of seeing things, I guess. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt who the GOAT is for football, and it's Tom Brady. And you know what? He's got the rings to prove it.
That's right. Just like us, Pete.
Yeah, just like you.
All right. Let's talk about macro. Global equity markets took their cue from the U.S. inflation data, which showed indeed just a steady 2.6%, Pete. So much. I mean, it's less than a third of what it was under the peak of the Biden administration. So, in other words, did inflation pick up? Nope. And that's a good thing. What do you got, Pete?
Well, you know what? We kicked off earnings season today. I knew what you were going to be talking about, so I just wanted to go a little bit of a different direction. So I'm just looking at the kickoff with JP Morgan, John. And people can say, well, you've been pretty bullish on this, Pete. What do you mean? This thing's down 3%. Yeah, you're right. Although in the last 5 years, it's up 125%. Matter of fact, in the last year, it's up 30%. So it's pulling back just a little bit from its all-time highs. So I'm not worried about it. As a matter of fact, I kind of like the numbers that they were able to put up, John. And I think that people probably have misread this earnings. And I think that maybe this is giving us, if they give us a little bit more to the downside, it could be an opportunity, in my opinion. So I like the fact that in my mind, JP Morgan crushed it.
I think they did too, Pete.
Yeah.
So what about the VIX sitting here still in the mid or low 15s?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, we did get that pop yesterday. It lasted all of about 30 seconds above 16 in the pre-market, but then it started to get back into reality. And here we are once again, sort of pinned right there between 14 and 1550. That's exactly been the 1 month. I mean, with a little bit of a move here or there, that's basically where we've been. And I think it's really pretty interesting. And by the way, where it is right now, call it 15 and a half or something like that. That basically indicates that we're going to get a little less than 1% move out of the S&P on a daily basis. Well, that's exactly what we're getting. So it is very, very accurate right now, John. And what a move yesterday, by the way. I mean, from that start of the day when everything looked terrible to the end of the day when everything came back, pretty amazing trading day yesterday.
Yeah. Well, again, I went back to my tweet on Janet Yellen, Pete, where again, she thinks that we're going to listen to her about Fed independence when that woman had no idea that $1 trillion in spending would actually boost up inflation just a little bit, peaking all the way to 9%, folks, 9%. And today we're at 2.6. But, you know, she might as well be on that rubber chicken circuit on the left, I guess, Pete, because nobody else wants to listen to that crap.
No.
All right. Let's tell you a little bit about the active trader event down in Florida, Pete, because I didn't even have a good prediction pick today. I didn't, because there was just really nothing out there.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been, you know, oh, okay. Are we going to invade Iran? Are we going to invade Gaza or whatever? Those seemed like, you know, just dumb picks. And they were way down there in the low 20s. So I thought instead we'd tell you about the active trader show that guy, Pete, will be at down in Miami, January 29th and 30th. And folks, you can either grab a virtual pass, which you see right there on the screen. An awful lot of you have done that already. And it's going to be a great show about trading. You also get a $200 Rebel rebate, meaning that whatever, I think the pass is right around $600 or so, Pete, for the virtual 2-day pass. But then you get $200 to spend on any of our subscription or coaching or whatever. So it's really $400.
Yeah.
When you take that into account. So check it out. Scan the QR code. You could join a bunch of our team down there in Miami, January 29th and 30th. Get out of the cold a little while, right, Pete?
Miami's not such a bad place in late January, John.
Yeah, it's usually a little bit better than Minnesota.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'll say that.
I bet. Well, let's talk about LHX, Pete.
Yeah.
Because, again, I told you guys about the president, of course, made that great investment in Intel when the stock was $24 and he got a $20, that's $20 buy-in for almost $10 billion or something like that, which has doubled now the value as Intel rocks to the upside. Not bad when you're making another, when you can double up on $9 or $10 billion, Pete, you're doing okay. So this time around, the Department of War decides, you know what we need? We need these missile solutions that L3Harris can provide. And so what did they do? They said, we're going to put up $1 billion. You guys, let's create a new company that just does these the motors for these missiles. Not a bad decision, Pete.
Not bad at all, John. And you know what? A lot of people will push back and say, you know, what is the government doing with these investments? I get it to some degree, but at the same time, so far so good, right? When you look at what happened with Intel, and you were just talking about that one and the move that's made and the money that's been made there. And I think with L3, this is very tight with the Department of War, like you said, John, but the increased budget for the defense budget is another thing. And this is $1 billion investment. You know what? Based upon the previous investment, I think I'd like to follow along, and I like what they're doing here. Stock's up about 3% today, something close to that. Really interesting. And this is very, very critical when we're talking about, you know, the defense itself. And this is something that I think makes a lot of sense that for at least me, in terms of the budget and everything else, it's a great opportunity, I think, for the U.S. to do this. A lot of people will push back on that, but I think that the reality is this investment from Intel is a great reflection of what we're seeing now. And this is pretty important, I would say, with $1 billion going this direction. This is a stock, by the way, as that chart showed, it's done pretty daggone well already. And I think this gives it another boost, John.
Yeah, well, if you know you're going to be spending money on defense, and by the way, Pete, I'll be on with Liz Clayman talking about this today, just after 3:00 today. I think it's incumbent on the administration to look at, okay, if we're throwing a bunch of money at defense stocks and we know which one we want to invest with, that's pretty much guaranteed that we're going to be spending a lot of money on that. These are for Tomahawk missiles, among others, folks.
Right.
So we launch a fair amount of those when we have little conflict here and there. And they end up being something that we might as well make some money on it, too, and have it American-owned, not foreign-owned.
Right.
All right, Pete. TVTX, down 30% or more. Lowest level since September. This is a biopharma, folks, focused on something Pete knows a lot about, a rare kidney and metabolic diseases. And they had hoped to get this PDUFA through, Pete. It seems that they wanted this full approval for expansion for this. Doesn't seem like they're going to get it, Pete. And for that reason, the stock was just getting cracked this morning.
Yeah, and this is one of those biotechs that actually has a PE, John. They actually have price to earnings, and it's about a 30, which isn't all that bad. There's some shorts out there, about 16%. As I oftentimes will say, when you look at that chart, John, and you see what's happening, yes, it's a negative thing coming out of the FDA because they still have some questions, right? I mean, and I think that's the major issue there because, TVTX thought, hey, everything's good. Now all of a sudden they're hearing, well, maybe, whoa, cowboy. But this was a $42 stock not that terribly long ago. Here it is at 23. Those shorts, do they start to cover at all? It's about a 16% short interest here, John. So the possibility, I think, certainly is that after this kind of a pullback, do some of those shorts want to start maybe closing some of those positions or at least making them smaller, taking some back in? That's something I think you've got to deal with right now from there. So from that standpoint, I like where they are. And by the way, the FDA didn't basically say, hey, not at all. They basically said, look, we still got some questions. So from that perspective, John, I think this one's kind of intriguing right now. And you know what? There's ways to do these kind of things with options and whatever. But I think that right now, given the fact that it's off as much as it is, I think that could be a very good opportunity.
Well, let's stay in stocks that are moving right now, Pete, and look over at Huntington Ingalls, HII. These guys are basically a defense contractor. They do a lot with ships, and this move today of almost 4% drove it to a new 52-week high, Pete. I think everything in defense these days is moving towards that. These guys have some sort of autonomous underwater vehicle. I imagine some of it's kind of secretive, Pete, but apparently they were able to conduct some tests up in Massachusetts for a fully autonomous launch and recovery. Mm-hmm. And, rather than putting women and men in harm's way, using one of these things, an autonomous underwater vehicle, that seems like an awful lot like the drones above ground, above water, Pete.
Yeah.
And something that can certainly be a high demand item.
Oh, absolutely. And it's absolutely an amazing company that, you know what, I wasn't all that familiar with it until we got the opportunity today to take a look at this thing. It's got some short interest in there, John. Those guys are feeling the pain. And I say that because it's up 5% today, but did you see that chart? Oh my goodness. That's bottom left to upper right in a big way. And I'll tell you what, I think what they are doing, I mean, look at that, from 150 to over 400. I'd say that's not such a bad run over about a year of time frame or whatever. But fully autonomous, as you said, launch and recovery. So this isn't one of these things where you're just shooting it out there. This is something where you're going out there and bringing it back. They're trying to minimize some of the risks that are out there and some of the enhanced capabilities that can happen given this fact with the autonomous side of the underwater vehicles. I mean, it sounds crazy. It sounds like something very futuristic. And quite frankly, it kind of is. But it is right now. And because of that, this is a pretty interesting stock. And I'll tell you what, those shorts, I think, might start wanting to cover at some point because this is one of those names where it seems like they're in the right place at the right time and what's going on around the world. I would say that this is one of those companies that you'd want to keep a very close eye on right now.
Well, let's wind it up with a stock that Pete knows a lot about because he was one of their top level flyers for years and years. Still flies them. Delta, DAL, which initially nice. Initially came out with some earnings that I thought were very positive, Pete, but the stock dropped about 6 or 7% right away in the pre. but then was fighting its way all the way back towards unchanged. Tell us what you saw in this earnings report from Delta.
Yeah, well, what I saw and what the reaction is are two different things, John. When I looked through what they produced, I mean, okay, you had record revenue. You didn't just like beat revenue, you had record numbers for revenue. So that's pretty amazing. Well over 14 billion, I think $14.6 billion, John. Not so bad. Stock was up, or the revenue was only up about 1% year over year. I get it, but let's also think about this for a second. They had a record year, even despite the fact that, you know, the government was shut down and they had to deal with that. So there's a lot of different things that go into this whole thing and how it looks. But by the way, I had people saying, well, but they missed on their earnings. No, they didn't. They had $1.55. They were looking for $1.53. I'd say that's a beat. And then when you look at the outlook, somebody said, well, they missed on the outlook. No, they didn't. Their outlook is that they're looking for 50 to 90 cents and that we're looking for 72. I would say that's somewhere right there, smack dab in the middle, just like it is for the most part, John, in terms of what they're looking for on the other side, the revenue side. 650 over 750 for the year. Well, they were looking for 730. I don't know. I look at this and say, you know what? They're in a great spot right now. They've been doing extremely well. They had to deal with the government shutdown. And now the fact that that's been reopened and everything is getting closer and closer, probably, if not fully back to normal, I would say that this is a pretty damn good quarter for Delta. I don't think that there's – now, does it mean I think it's perfectly priced? No. But I think as far as the earnings itself, I think that they did an outstanding job of navigating a very difficult time given the fact of the government shutdown.
Yeah, and Pete, they also they really were highlighting, as Pete said, folks, their premium flyers.
Yeah.
People like Pete. And people that, are big business flyers flying every week here and there. And the fact that they elect to fly on Delta and spend that kind of first class money, obviously they can fly in the back of the plane too. People like Palmer Luckey, Pete, the guy with Anduril, he flies in the back of the plane. But an awful lot of CEOs and so forth fly up front. And that's a ticket that's usually 2 or 3 times more expensive than the seats in the back.
Yep.
So that's profitable business when you're making 3 times, 4 times the money on every seat up front versus the seat in the back.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Well, how about a little more of what's going on in sports videos, Pete? I know we have found over time, folks, that these are some of your most favorite. And we have yet again, Mr. Cignetti from Indiana. And let's hear a little bit about his contract, because apparently he's smart and so is his agent, Pete.
Yeah.
Cignetti is about to be one of the highest paid coaches in college football history because of one sentence in his contract. So I teamed up with Essentially Sports to show you how insane Cignetti's rise to Indiana has been. He starts off in his first major role at Alabama under Nick Saban, making about $200,000 a year as a wide receivers coach. Then from 2011 to 2016, he takes a major pay cut to go coach his own team at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. However, part of this is because his dad was a legend at IUP. The damn field is named after him. So he stays at IUP for 5 years, then ends up going to Elon, where he made somewhere around $250,000 a year. Then, of course, he gets his big break at JMU, where they paid him up to $677,000. Obviously, he balled out at JMU. Then, of course, he gets hired by Indiana, and Mark Cuban is just filling this man's pockets. His initial salary when he first got hired was about $4.5 million. And since he had such an amazing season in 2024 and also started the season in 2025 so good, they bumped him up to $11.6 million every year, plus a $1 million retention bonus every time he stays at the school. And this was an 8-year, $93 million deal. But now that he's turned the dumpster fire that was Indiana into probably a national champion, he's about to get the bag, because his agent is an absolute genius and baked in a good faith market review clause into his contract. And this clause states that if Cignetti makes the college football playoff semifinals, which he did and also won, the school is forced to renegotiate his contract and make him one of the top 3 highest paid coaches in college football. And if Indiana refuses to do that, his buyout drops to $0, which will now make the new contract that he has at least $12.5 million a year. That is a roughly 10,000% increase in salary since 2016. Curt Cignetti is about to be
not bad.
Think about that, John. I mean, some of those numbers just are staggering. And I remember Nick Saban, if I remember this correctly, John, he had a very interesting contract. I think that his contract read that his number is always going to be the highest number of anybody in college football while he was. So if somebody else like this, all of a sudden he's getting 12 million a year, well, they're going to give him 13 million a year. They give him 14 million, he's going to get 15 million a year. Not a bad thing. I'll tell you what. And by the way, probably worthwhile for Saban because all the guy did was win, pretty much like what he has said about himself, which I love. I love that Signetti says, do you know who I am? You want to know who I am? What do I do? All I do is win.
Google me.
Just Google me. I mean, it's phenomenal. The guy is so classic. I mean, Indiana is so lucky to have a guy like this. And obviously, you know what? Those donors, they pay a lot of money. By the way, John, so what's the biggest thing going on? Who are the top 5 right now in the NCAA in the portal, which is becoming the free agency way to get around, obviously, and everything else. And who's number 1? Well, it's Indiana. There's a shocker, right? Because all these kids are watching what he's done, how he's done it, and they want to be a part of this thing now. 3 years ago, that was not something anybody would ever, if you said that, people would laugh. Now, you look at this and you're like, well, of course they want to go there. So he got a TCU quarterback already, John, this guy, Josh Hoover. A lot of people think that he's going to be pretty special. He's a 31-game starter at TCU, who now is going to be at Indiana. But here's the interesting thing. 8 of the 12 guys are defensive players so far that they've grabbed, and they must be pretty damn good because they are ranked number 1. Texas Tech, they're retooling the defense. They've got 7 D linemen that they signed, just D linemen, not just defensive linemen. Penn State, 13 starters from Iowa State have signed up, so they're going to be there, John, including a quarterback who's got 39 starts already. Ole Miss, 7 of the 8 are on defense. I'm just reading that off because Texas A&M, 4 starting SEC O-linemen coming there because they already still have a lot of those defensive players, so they aren't as strapped. So the interesting thing is those are your top 5. That probably is an interesting look because I didn't say Alabama. I didn't say Georgia. I didn't say USC. I didn't say Oregon, who, by the way, Oregon just snatched up the University of Minnesota's one guy who's just very, very special, that safety and punt returner and kick returner and does it all. They snatched him up. You know why? Because Phil Knight's got all the money in the world, and he says, what do you need? They said, we need a safety. And there's this kid in Minnesota. You know where he is? He's going to Oregon. He's going to be a top. So what do you think, John? I mean, in a lot of ways, even though these names are a lot of the guys that are, oftentimes talked about, like we just documented, it's not all the big boys. So what do you think? Is this good for college football, the fact that you've got Indiana and you've got Ole Miss and Penn State and whatever, and we're not seeing some of those bigger schools? I mean, kind of interesting so far in the portal.
Well, and I'd say, Pete, take a look at LSU.
Yes.
It was always rumored they were going to get that Michigan QB. Yeah. Maybe Lane Kiffin wanted him. Maybe he didn't. Maybe it was a fake right and then go left because he got Sam Leavitt from Arizona State.
Yeah.
And Sam Leavitt, for those who didn't see the game, tore up the Texas Tech team.
Yeah.
I mean, Arizona State had no business being on the field with him, but for Sam Leavitt, Pete. So if he's just going to tear him up and throw for what he threw for and everything, believe me, Lane Kiffin noticed and he signed him. And that's going to be for a lot of money too, a lot of cheddar. So I think I'd throw LSU in your top 5 somewhere. But I agree with your Indiana picks. Indiana's just killing it in the portal. And it's only open for 3 more days, Pete. Mm-hmm. It's January 2nd until the 16th. So that's as far as the published days for the portal. I don't know if somebody tries to get in after that, if they can still do it or not. Maybe they can just go talk to the coach. I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. I will say this. You're 100% right because LSU, they did need a quarterback. They need somebody that's special. Lane Kiffin is the quarterback whisperer, I think, one of the very, very best. I mean, obviously the season itself speaks for it back at Ole Miss, but If he's going to make a run with LSU, he needs a quarterback, and I think he found maybe the best quarterback in the portal, quite frankly. So interesting to see, and we all know one thing: LSU's got a lot of money.
Yeah.
Those Cajuns are raging, man. They're going after it. All right, John, last night, did you get a chance to watch that game, the Steelers game against the Texans? Let me tell you something. If people don't realize how good the Texans team really is, and they're like, well, Aaron Rodgers, what happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. These guys are ballers on defense, and they play defense in a very aggressive way. A couple of years ago, when they were able to draft a couple of guys out of Alabama, a couple linebackers, a couple of rushers, the Vikings decided to give away one of the best pass rushers there exists in the NFL. And now he's been at Houston for the last couple of years, doing pretty well, by the way. He seems to stack them up pretty good. How about this? They held the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh to 175 total yards. Not rushing yards, not pass, total. That's their total, John. They had 63 rushing yards, so they had a really good night. Aaron threw for about $120 or whatever. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And 30-6, 23-0 in the fourth quarter. I would say that the Texans sort of stepped it up in the second half. And you know what? As good as Tomlin is, the problem is he's gone to the playoffs, I think, 7 of the last 7 years or something like that. He's also exited in the first game. I think that's right, in those 7 years. So there might be some stuff changing. And it's not that Tomlin's bad. Nobody's saying that. I think Tomlin's one of my favorite coaches in the entire NFL. But he's having a hard time getting it done in the playoffs, John.
Yeah, he had a hard time getting it done in the season, Pete. No, and again, I am a fan as well. I think if he got released, fired, and if he still wanted to coach, he'd be picked up like that.
Yep.
He would be a very quick acquisition, especially by somebody in the AFC. I wouldn't feel very safe in my job for certain AFC teams if indeed Tomlin came available.
Mm-hmm.
But that was an old-fashioned beatdown, Pete. And they banged up Aaron Rodgers pretty good. You got to wonder, even though he's a tough guy, you got to wonder if he really wants to come back one more year. Because I think he has a 2-year contract with him, Pete. Doesn't have to come back. Hopefully he'll let him know ahead of the draft if indeed he's going to. But that was one that he's probably still sitting there in an ice tub somewhere, Pete, because he got hit in the head, got hit in the back, he got hit, in the ribs. He was just getting hit every play. You would have thought it was, TJ Watt coming at him instead of all those guys from Alabama, but they pretty much ganged up on it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it was a whooping in that defense was putting on that offensive line, the running backs and all of them, and they did get 4 sacks, but they hit them every play. It felt like every single play Rodgers would get back there, he had no time and he was getting pummeled. And that's why I think when you look at his, what he did as a quarterback, he threw for 146 yards. Is that really the way he wants to go out, John? So I'll leave it with this. Does Rodgers play next year because of the fact that he doesn't want to be remembered for throwing an interception for a touchdown in his last throw? What do you think?
I would say he does not want to do that. Doesn't want to go out like that. He wants to go out with the belt.
Oh, yeah, the belt.
Doing the championship belt. That was the NFL is going to be investigating some of that because there were some pretty severe hits that he took. And by the way, Pete, the same thing was happening to Purdy. The difference was Purdy had a few more weapons, and he's a lot younger. He's 25 or whatever, 26 maybe. He's 25 or 26, and Aaron Rodgers is in his 40s. And those hits add up. But I saw Purdy just get bent, Pete, multiple times, hit on top and bottom and just like snapped him. And he still was back ready to play the next play. So that's what happens when you are a young guy versus an older gentleman.
I'll tell you what, between Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, How do you stop these? I mean, this defense is so good, and then they've got that guy who's got a really interestingly funny name, John, 2020 or whatever the heck, however you say it, but another linebacker from Alabama. I mean, basically, Houston just said, look, give us whoever's coming out this year, and we're going to draft them, and just tell us who it is, and we'll just sign them up. And that's what they did a couple of years ago with these guys, and they are balling. I mean, that defense is as scary as any. They're ranked pretty much in the top 3 in almost every single category you look for, John. I mean, and people lose sight of the fact that these guys have been on a mission. You know, they started out 0-3, and everybody was like flushing the toilet saying, see you later, Texans, you guys are out. Well, they ain't out.
And Pete, you and I talked about Will Anderson when he was coming out.
Woo.
And oh my God, I've not seen a rush guy like this.
Right.
And that's the most desirable draft position in, if you're on defense, yeah, I know there's some great corners that come out from time to time, but that rush end, that's a difference maker because quarterbacks are going to feel it. And like I said, certainly Aaron Rodgers is feeling it today.
Yeah. Well, 15 sacks for Danielle Hunter, too. I think the Vikings could have used some of that, maybe, huh? What do you think? I mean, again,
who's your GM?
The astute ability to evaluate talent, and a lot of people say, well, but he took off plays. You know what? If he takes off a play or two once in a while, first of all, I don't agree with that. But second of all, if he did and he gets 15 sacks, I'd say, you know what? That's not the worst thing in the world.
Well, remember, folks, Pete and I will be back with another Rebels Edge tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So stay tuned. There won't be as much on the football side, but we'll have a lot to talk about stocks because earnings season just kicked off. So join us at 1 p.m. and I'll be on with Liz Clayman, 3 p.m. Eastern time today. Bang.